Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is all set and ready to hit theaters this December of 2019, but on top of all of that, Disney and Lucasfilm are also planning a series of new live-action TV series, as well as the new Star Wars Trilogy. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, what's really exciting about Episode 9 is that we do know that this film is really going to determine the future of the franchise and where it's going to stand once Episode 9 releases come this December of 2019. Now, on top of all of this, one aspect of the franchise that a lot of fans are very curious about has all to do with the new Star Wars trilogy, also known as the Fourth Trilogy by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. And I think the reason as to why a lot of fans are very curious about this is because this is basically hitting the reset button. It's nothing associated with the Skywalker saga. It's nothing associated with the Skywalkers. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how Star Wars will operate when it focuses away from the Skywalker bloodline. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about the future of this franchise, and when it all comes down to one of the big plans by Disney, Lucasfilm, etc., this is where things begin to get very exciting for the Fourth Trilogy. Now, specifically, it's described that not only are Disney and Lucasfilm focusing on Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, but also the new Star Wars trilogy, also known as the Fourth Trilogy, and a handful of live-action TV series. It's explained that Disney and Lucasfilm are currently working very hard to get Keanu Reeves involved as a new villain for the first film of the new trilogy that would be based off of a popular Legends character that many fans enjoy. It said that the Fourth Trilogy and its script will be written during the fall of 2019 by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, as they plan for production to begin in 2020. It's explained that they plan to write all three films back-to-back, as well as filming the movies back-to-back. It's described that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are all set to meet with George Lucas at the end of summer of 2019 to go over the general story before Lucas is said to get involved with parts of the story and direction of the films. The films are actually said to be the darkest Star Wars films to date, and that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are working very hard of creating characters just as popular as Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, while also using characters from Star Wars Legends and, of course, from Star Wars The Expanded Universe in different ways. So, let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, we do know that the Fourth Trilogy is very important, not just to Disney and Lucasfilm, but also to the Star Wars community and exactly what it means for the franchise. Now, we do know that the franchise is evolving as we go through each and every film, and the fact that they are detaching away from the Skywalker saga and focusing on a new saga, which is going to most likely be based in the Old Republic. In case you guys did not know, the Old Republic is now fully canon, in the way that Disney and Lucasfilm are trying to implement it into the Skywalker saga, and how it's actually going to be teased in The Rise of Skywalker, coming, of course, in Episode 9. I cannot wait to see exactly what kind of pre-Easter eggs we're going to get about the Old Republic within the Skywalker saga for Episode 9. Now, on top of all of this, alright, we do know that the new trilogy is really going to be the darkest set of Star Wars films in history, and that they are working very hard in order to get Keanu Reeves on board for the first film at the very least for Star Wars, the new trilogy, or whatever it's going to be called, right? Now, Keanu Reeves, a lot of fans are trying to figure out exactly who he would play as a villain. We're not quite sure as of yet, but that's what Disney and Lucasfilm have their eyes on. In fact, Marvel recently was trying to get him on board for another film. I believe it was for either the Shang-Chi movie, if I'm not mistaken, or might have been from Marvel's The Eternals. But Keanu Reeves didn't really feel much of an interest in those films, and so now Disney's trying to get him on board with Star Wars as opposed to Marvel. Now, the other thing that I'm really excited about is, of course, how George Lucas is said to actually meet with David Benioff and D.B. Weiss later this summer. So, summer technically ends at the very end of September, so that means that we could very well have George Lucas talking with David and DB sometime in September, just before the fall begins, which is when they're going to go over the story ideas, and they're going to try to recapture George Lucas and his vision of whatever they're aiming to do. Once again, this most likely sounds like the Old Republic, because George Lucas knows that very well, and he approved many of those stories back in the early 2000s into the mid-2000s. Now, the thing about this, the fourth trilogy, a lot of fans are very skeptical, and I totally understand that. After what happened with Game of Thrones Season 8, and of course, you know, everything related to David Benioff and D.B. Weiss on whether or not they are the proper creators for Star Wars movies. Now, I think that they have a great shot here, just in my personal opinion. I'm not going to go ahead and say just because, you know, Game of Thrones didn't do too well, that they're not going to do well with Star Wars. I can't say anything too soon. I haven't seen their work with Star Wars related content, so once I finally see the first film, then I could definitely be able to, you know, pretty much judge exactly what their vision is going to be like for the new trilogy. So on top of all of this, I would love to hear what each and every one of you have to say about the new trilogy and, you know, what you think about the future of the Star Wars franchise after Episode 9, and everything seems to be shaping up so far. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.